Hey everybody. I make a lot of Facebook videos primarily on the subject of abolition, and I bet that a lot of people are wondering why I haven't made some kind of video response or some kind of written response to the email and the blog post from Al Gerhardt there with the Sooner Tea Party, which was putting a DUI that I got back in August on blast. What I've been trying to do is just call people and talk to them personally, tell them what happened, what I'd been doing, um, what kind of accountability was set up immediately following it, and all that kind of stuff, and trying to have as many personal phone calls, conversations, messages with as many people as I possibly could. But most of those phone calls last a long time, and in the process, I know that lots of people have been messaging each other and just kind of wondering what is this and what has Russell done, and what has been done in response to it and everything. So wanted to make a quick response. Now this is somewhat difficult to do because um, it's true. I mean, like, I am guilty of the basic thing that Al Gerhardt and whoever the elected officials who are helping him make these claims, I am guilty of what they're saying. It is true that back in August, let's see, back really towards the end of the Dan Fisher campaign, running towards the end of the Dan Fisher campaign, and um, those last few months and stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on in the campaign, and there was a lot of stuff going on within the abolitionist movement, and just personal things, just among my friends and fellow coworkers in the cause. And in the midst of all that, I very ignorantly, stupidly, and sinfully began drinking in the evenings. Most of the time, I'd like drink some while I was up drawing, and not every night, but more than once, obviously, multiple times, um, on evenings, especially if like I was having a hard time falling asleep. I had started trying to take melatonin pills and that sort of thing, and trying to be able to like shut down at the end of a day, and there's all this kind of stuff going on. And what I'd kind of done, and I won't go into all the details, is taken up drinking. I'd draw and work and stuff late, and then I'd drink, and then get all warm and fuzzy, and then just go to bed. Now the issue and the reason that this was sinful, I'm actually not one of these people who thinks that drinking alcohol is in and of itself sinful. I'm not. I don't believe that drinking alcohol is unbiblical, but I do believe that what I was doing was sinful. One, I drank in college. I drank in grad school primarily, and it had become a problem. And I stopped drinking towards the end of my time there in graduate school, and had kind of sworn off of it, because whereas I thought that drinking wasn't sin in and of itself, I thought that I was sinning, and that I wanted to commit myself and devote myself to the cause of abolition. I wanted to get closer to Christ, be a better husband, be a better father, and just not have that temptation. I'm a very obsessive person, and anything I do it a lot. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to cut this out. And I'd cut it out for years and years. And when I'd made the decision to start doing it again, I was doing it in secret. So if you're wondering what that's about, it's sort of, you've got this guy, and, if I'm any kind of aholic, I'm a workaholic. And while I'm being a workaholic, I'm sitting there working and drawing late in the night by myself. And, I don't want to go into too much detail, but sad and depressed and anxious about all sorts of things going on out there in the abolitionist movement. And kind of numbing that and doing, what the world calls self-medicating. But Scripture says cast your anxiety on Christ because he cares for you, not cast your anxiety to the side and numb yourself and, drink instead. So it was sin. What I was doing was sinful. And so that is what I'd started doing and had been doing it for a number of weeks. And thankfully, and I actually do praise God for this, like he busted me. My studio was on Main Street where I was working on Main Street. I had we had an office space and studio there. And, I'd work there on the big tables with drawings that I do and everything. And I think it's like 2.5, 3 miles from where I live. And since I'm drinking in secret, I'm there, I'm drawing, I'm by myself, and then I drive home. And that's sinful too. Different nights and different times, I've definitely had too much to drink. But the sinfulness is that I'm doing it in secret. My wife, she's suspicious and she knows that something's not up. She knows that I'm depressed about the state of things and friends and all that. But yeah, that is the sinfulness, is the hiding it, the not dealing with it, and choosing to do it. With the grace of God, so the providence of God, the good thing is that God like busted me, and I'm not saying that like, oh, like let's play that Christian card. I mean, it's really true. On August 18th, I'm sitting there. I'm like literally working on a T-shirt design. Like there is forgiveness for the sin of abortion T-shirt design, which I never finished, but I'm working on that T-shirt design and sitting there. I'm something else that you shouldn't drink, energy drinks, so doing the sort of like energy drink vodka thing, like vodka Red Bull type thing. And, I've got the Sonic cup with the kind of ice that I like, and I've got the energy drink I like and the vodka that I like, and they're mixed, and I'm just sitting there drinking and drawing, and then kind of get, whoa, I've been drinking too much. You can't just sit there and draw for hours and drink this way. If you're going to mix, just for those of y'all who've never experienced this, you just can't do that. But I wasn't super experienced in what I was doing, and definitely kind of had enough and was ready to go home and try to go to sleep or something and just get out of there. By the grace of God, on the way home, I stopped at a green light. Shouldn't have been doing this, guilty of this too. And I stopped at a green light, checked my Facebook, there was stuff going on in Facebook world, and sat there at that green light, and then went, I delayed at the green light, drove too fast. It's on Alameda. Road on my way home, and it's like a 35, and I probably drive 50 on this road all the time, regardless of whether I've drunk a lot or not. But the cop saw me paused at the green light. The cop saw me going too fast. It was cause for him to pull me over, and being that it's like 10:30 at night or whatever, he's going to pull me over. And I'd had way too much to drink and drive. So he asked me, he says, hey, have you been drinking? And of course I'm like, yes, I have. That's why I'm trying to go home, And the way this is sinful is that if I were like openly drinking and not hiding it, I probably would have got an Uber or a cab or whatever. But I wasn't. I was keeping it secret and trying to play it off, And I know that like my wife, who has had to live through this, I think she is kind of seeing me and just thinks that I'm sad and a wreck and all this kind of stuff, but I'm like hiding it from her. And that is just not the way husbands should treat their wives in general. And my wife's awesome, and we have got a good relationship, except for me doing junk like this. So it's just a guilty, stupid thing that I'm doing. And then you have just like this bad judgment in it, poor judgment to drive like that. Now, regardless of whether I can drive that way or this or that or anything, like people have different views on like whether or not there should be DUI laws and, was there a crime if no one was hurt, et cetera, et cetera. But I did get pulled over. Guy asked if I was drinking. Got out. Did the like field sobriety test things, and then he was like, "Well, I'm gonna have to ask you to, blow and everything." And I mean, literally, the like last thing I did before I get my car was like finish this, the rest of this drink that I had poured, which it's just like on me. Um, but anyway, the cop wasn't a jerk or anything like that. He booked me, arrested me, and I went through the whole process. Had to call my wife. That was terrible and awful. And I had to sit there in a, they didn't put me in like a jail, but like in a waiting room for a good while. Um, I had to pay like a bonds fee and everything like that. And yeah, it was awful consequences of sin and just not shouldn't be doing that for multiple reasons. Well, the next day, woke up, you know, tried to wrap my mind around everything that was going on, called the men in my fellowship. The fellowship in Norman had been just recently rocked in a lot of ways, but we had begun taking moves to like sort of be more in each other's lives, kind of like returned to a way that we had been previously. But so I had already been sort of rebuilding relationships with Josh Malone and Aaron Hoffman, Jeremy Brown, Matt Bonehammer, and Brian Biggs, and these guys that are them and their wives in our fellowship, and called them up, said, "Hey guys, can y'all meet?" And four of them, Matt, Josh, Jeremy, and Hoff, called them up, said, "Hey guys, can you all meet? And can I talk to this?" And confess the sin to them, confess what I had been doing, that I had been caught, that, it's hard, like, it's hard to really be in the same place that I was 9 months ago or 8 months ago. And, it was a rough thing to confess that sin to brothers, but they were gracious and good brothers and saying, "You're an idiot and you shouldn't do that. And we had no idea you're doing that. And like, what are you doing? And like, why? Like, you know, and they're right. And so what they immediately did is said, okay, well, you need to take steps to not be this person and not do this and not have this secret. And so, so we were getting ready to move out of that office and the guys had a different office. There was an office in the same building, just across the hall. And so they said, "You need to move into this office. You need to do your work from here. And you need to stop this late night stuff and this, being alone stuff. You need to stop just because you're alone doing this work and everything like that. You need to be in constant contact and fellowship with us and stuff." And so we began to make sort of changes in schedule and making sure that we're around each other a lot and everything like that. And that's been awesome. Now also, like, I was working very close with Mark Kreslins at the time, and working, of course, with like guys like Dan Fisher at the time. And we were trying to figure out, what is Free the State's going to do? What's it going to look like post Dan Fisher? Like, how are we going to do this? And, what's my role and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of rocked those plans. It's like, we have these plans to create this abolitionist state sovereignty organization. And so I had to, Mark Kreslins was a good brother to me, and he helped me. He's an older man that could kind of like say, "Okay, here's what you do." And he hooked me up with another brother who was who had been through a similar thing, and we found a lawyer who was a believer, and could help assist, and like would not rob me blind and all that kind of stuff. And so that happened, and then it was kind of like, well, I need to tell some other people. I, of course, told a good brother of mine, older brother, who's been part of my life for a lot and helped me in a lot of ways. And I had to call him because, I'm driving a car that he had provided to me. And so I called Todd Bullis and talked to Todd. And that was rough, And then, I had to call Dan Fisher, who I'd been working for. And so worked, was able to talk to these older men, confess my sin, and see what they had, what they thought about it and all that. And they were gracious and kind and offered godly counsel that was consistent with the counsel of the guys in our fellowship who are also godly men, but they're younger men. They're even younger than I am, and I'm still considered a young man. So anyway, had spoke with those guys. Now my lawyer is a good guy, he's a smart guy. Knew very quickly from just some of the things that I told him. I'm sitting in the office and I'm like telling him what I did, and he's like, "Wait, you were drawing a forgiveness for the sin of abortion shirt, drinking, and then drove home and got a DUI? Well, you're the first person that I've ever had to defend that's sort of like the thing that's going on." I'm like, "Yeah, and he's like, "Well, all right, what do you do in this abortion thing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of very loud about it, actively involved in the abolitionist movement, got a lot of enemies, and a lot of people would be really happy." And he's just like, "Well, kind of, I'd advise you just, you've told," he's a Christian, so he's like, "You've told these guys in your church and you've told some other people. You probably don't want to tell like a whole lot of other people, because if it becomes sort of a story and you get a judge or some like opposing lawyers or whatever that want to make an example of it, it's going to make it harder on you, et cetera, et cetera." And he had thought, without going into any details or whatever, he had thought that some of the things about blood alcohol content and traffic test and stuff like that were probably not exactly just and fair, and that he would be able to reduce my, I don't even know the term, whatever, judgment. So basically I was like, okay, yeah, all right, there's that. And I know this is too much detail, but I just want to have this. This is for the abolitionism page. And I just wanted all y'all to know, because there's just been so much going on in the past year, and, so many things about me and what I'm doing and everything. But this like rocked my world. And I'd been the kind of person, some people outside of the abolitionist movement, hate the fact that we are so sort of like righteous, like abolitionism is biblical and pro-lifeism is not, and like we've no unity with anyone who's not for sort of full-blown AHA, and like they all think we're mean and everything like that. And here I am with this just sort of like moral failure, and I hate it, and I wanted to crawl into like a gutter or something and just not do anything. And I didn't want to hurt the movement, and I didn't want to hurt my wife and my kids, and I didn't want to hurt y'all. But at the same time, it was like an isolated incident thing, and I wanted to like abolish abortion. But so sorry. So I'm dealing with all this, and I'm thinking, what do I do in regard to the work that I'm doing? Because I really do believe that the seeding and the growth and the spread of abolitionism has occurred in such a way that we're gaining ground, and now it's time for us to build an organization that is organized, that's funded, that's going to be really taking abolitionism into the political arena and really pressing hard for future legislative actions and maybe future campaigns and candidates and all that kind of stuff. And so we're building this thing, and then I do this, and I just totally screw it up. And I'm kind of like, well, what else can I do? I've kind of devoted my life to this cause, and I've jeopardized it, just like the Word of God says you shouldn't do. And I'm surrounded by brothers who are like, yeah, you did that, and you're kind of a weapon in this whole thing, and you're very visible and vocal, and whatever they say, talented and all that kind of stuff. So I've done this. And, it's kind of like some of the older brothers are like, well, you kind of have to keep working. Kind of have to keep working, and you kind of have to keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, well, I do need to take a step back. I love to draw, and I love to write things and build things and make things and strategize, this and this, and like hold this back, and all that timing stuff and different campaigns. It's like what I've been devoting myself to, the abolitionist stuff. I can't do everything, but I can do some things, and like the things that I was doing, I was really content and happy to do from behind the scenes and help different candidates or legislators and all that kind of stuff. And so took a back seat, said, all right, guys, like I'm going to stop working late. And like, let's figure out what it looks like for me to work at the office with y'all while y'all are working. And y'all, I just found out the other day, they were like, oh yeah, we actually get into your office and go through your stuff and, see if we can find anything. And, like you got any bottles in there or something. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Thanks, guys. You should take out the trash for me sometimes, but no. But they, we said, okay, what does it look like? So, and I had said some things at that time, just sort of vague things, to other people, let some people know that I was working with, I told a sister that, I was working with, a lot in setting up Free the States, like, hey, Megan, during this time, Megan Ladd, during this time of all this stuff happening in the abolitionist movement and the Dan Fisher thing, I started drinking and confessed it to her. And, it was just going down. And I wanted to tell a lot of people, but I didn't want to tell a lot of people if it was going to jeopardize things. So I tried to keep my head down out of the spotlight, sort of build up some material and think about what it would be for Free the States, sort of map out strategic concerns and stuff for how we would support Senate Bill 13, which I knew was coming up, and et cetera, et cetera. So working it all out. And just choose to focus on the work. The problem is during that period in time, those who were going to be doing Free the State said, you know what, we're going to actually turn this over to you, and we're going to go do other things and focus, like Dan was going to focus on his new associate pastor job. Mark was going to focus on other things that were more directly related to peaceful political secession. And whereas Mark and I are brothers, the disagreement, like I'm cool with nullification for abolition. And even if you have to secede for abolition, I'm cool with it all. But I think we had opposite sort of philosophies. I would rather abolish abortion and remain in the Union and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, don't want to get in the weeds. But after months and months of accountability, not falling to this temptation, not going down the road again, we were going to launch Free the States and go to town against the pro-lifers and the pro-choicers, and we were going to do everything within our power to really get Senate Bill 13 out there and use it to really draw a line of distinction between a pro-life legislative bill and an abolitionist legislative bill. And of course, all of y'all have seen the work that we've done. Now, the whole time, like every single day that I'm doing stuff, as it progressed and I got more active and more involved, every single day I wake up and I think to myself, this could be the day that someone publishes this. It's all public record. And we're up there at the Capitol basically kicking down doors and calling people out, putting billboards and door hangers out. And I'm like, man, these people know that I'm actively involved in this. I'm doing legislative luncheons and talking to representatives and senators up there. And then, of course, being more and more visible and more vocal online. And I know that eventually this is going to happen. And I just choose to do it anyway because I think we are gaining a lot of ground It's going to suck for me. It's going to suck for my wife. Sorry for using the S word, but it's going to be terrible. But I don't know anyone else who's going to do it. Now, some people would find that narcissistic. I'm committed to the cause of abolition and needed to work and do whatever I could to draw this line of demarcation between, say, Senate Bill 13 and Senate Bill 195, et cetera, and had not been drinking or struggling or anything like that. So the decision on my part and my wife and just my family, the church, the fellowship here was just like, yeah, it's going to happen. And you can't let the fact that it's going to happen stop you from doing the work that you're kind of designed to do. And so I just continued to do the work. And about, I don't know, a week or two ago, I knew we had to, because of what we were doing, I had to register as a lobbyist. I had to put my name in there officially as a lobbyist because of the things that we were doing, the way we were spending money and everything at the Capitol. And I knew it was a matter of time that before this would be brought back out. So I'd taken this time to focus on family and get sort of some things right in my head and not be casting my anxiety or using this to go to sleep, using alcohol to go to sleep. Regain some accountability with some brothers who I see every single day. And they're, basically focus on killing sin. The most important part is to say it never, ever came back up. And it never came out. I still want to kill the sin. And I still praise God that he busted me so I could. But doing that in response. Now, this is 8 months ago. And so a lot of y'all are kind of like, okay, so like during this 8 months, what's it been like? Well, it did radically change me, of course, being sort of humbled, knowing that you're going to be humbled more in the future actually makes you a little bit kinder to everybody. Now, there's all sorts of controversies going on, all sorts of people who probably don't think that I'm kind enough to them still and everything. But I want to be, and I want to be unified with people, and I want to have like a less sharp tongue and come across as less righteous. Because, I'm not righteous. Christ is righteous. And I do, I don't want to put any bad theology out there, but I do believe that we can put to death the flesh and we can walk in the Spirit and be holy. And I want to pursue holiness without failing. I want to run the race. And, but I don't want to put out this sort of I'm perfect thing, because it's certainly a perfect man does not cast his cares on a drink. He cast his cares on Christ. Anyway, but like a lot of the work that's been done through Free the States and at the rallies and the speaking and sort of like seeking and pursuing unity with other brothers and everything, and pretty much how I've been the past few months after some time kind of out of the spotlight. But some of the things that I've done in the spotlight are purchased because of what God did on that night and through my brothers here in the fellowship and the sisters, and just the change that it's done. I mean, the discipline of the Lord. I hate the fact that someone could watch this and say, oh, well, he's manipulating these scriptures or using these scriptures to justify it. But the discipline of the Lord is good, and I thank God that it happened. I apologize to all of y'all for whatever disrepute it's brought to the abolitionist cause or the cause of Christ, the gospel. But at the same time, when it happened, in the weeks that it happened, I was just able to really think, golly, Christ died for me and gave me some cause and said to be salt and light. And he said in his word in various places, in various ways, don't give the devil an occasion to attack you or use you or accuse you or bring shame to my name. And I did that. I have done that. So, but yet still he died for me. So it's awesome. And I don't, think that I'm standing condemned before God and I'm crying because I'm just thinking about y'all. But it was 8 months ago, and I don't sit around crying all day. I sit around doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing and trying to focus on not letting sin or the accusation of sin or people rightly pointing out sin and wrongly using it to try to keep me from doing what I ought to do or what I can do to disrupt their compromise with abortion or their apathy or their being pro-abortion, all that kind of stuff. I've been trying to just work and be faithful to my wife and family and friends and fellowship and all of y'all in the movement. So I do apologize. If any of y'all have any questions about it and you're thinking of like, well, I still don't like you, that's cool. And but if you have any questions and you want to talk with me or rebuke me or anything, just do. Plans moving forward. This has actually surfaced exactly how we thought it would surface. It would only surface after we ruffled enough feathers. Of course, it surfaces a couple of days after I go public with the letter. The Tony Lowinger and the pro-life politicians and stuff, and all those guys up there at the Capitol. If you've read the letter about me, it says that elected officials at the Capitol helped gather this material together and probably leaked it to the guy who put it out there. And so it is a smear campaign. It is designed to try to keep me from doing what I do. They don't like me walking into their offices at the Capitol or doing any of the stuff that we're doing on social media. They don't like all the emails. They don't like all the phone calls. They don't like the billboards and the door hangers and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to keep on doing it. Some people have this philosophy like, no, if you sin or you get caught in some kind of public sin, you should step down. The accountability here with these guys and with my wife and everything is just sweet and good. And though I'm not perfect or anything, I'm just saying I've been working like a crazy person without falling into this again. And so I'm doing well. I'm committed to the cause. And if there was some kind of thought that this kind of smear campaign, though rooted in something that I am guilty of, would make me no longer press for something like Senate Bill 13, well, they're all going to be really surprised when I'm up at the Capitol on Monday morning, walking into their offices and being like, hey, heard about my DUI? SB 195 still is stupid. You should amend it to put abolitionist language in there. So I'm going to still work. So it's a weird way to end this video. I know this is a long video. I know many of you probably didn't make it through to the end. But for those of you who did, I love y'all. I love the work that we're doing. I'm sorry and I apologize. And any kind of accountability or any kind of questions that you want to bring to me or ask or anything about any part of this, please just send me a message. I don't know if we'll be making like public statements because we don't want it to be about me and how stupid I am. We want it to be about abolition and how it's righteous and biblical and how compromise with abortion is unrighteous and lawless. So anyway, I love you all. I'm sorry.